Hey my dear friends, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Today I am color coordinated with my test car. Yeah, it's how I roll. And this is the 2023 Honda Civic Type R, the most powerful Civic you can get. So we're gonna have a good look at it inside and out. We're gonna go for a drive out on my favorite desert back road, and then I'm gonna tell you what I really think. This car, the 2023 Honda Civic Type R, is the most powerful Civic you can buy off the showroom lot. Type R, legendary name. This is the second generation that we've had here in the United States. The last one was great. This one takes that and goes the next step. This one, as tested, is $44,385. The single and only option is the competition white paint. Why shouldn't white be a $400 option, right? It's a way for them to make some money, let's just be honest. Now, looking at this car, it has quite a few visual differences than the regular Civic, the SI, and so forth. It is a 5-door hatch, and of course, we have to start with that big wing on the back. Trademark Honda Civic Type R, but I will say that this one is a little bit toned down compared to the last generation. And while most people that maybe wear a tie and a shirt to an office might be a little bit afraid of taking something crazy like this to the office, I think this is a little bit more passable in the parking garage than maybe the last one. Down in the lower fascia, another big tell, the big triple exhaust and that sport diffuser lower rear bumper. That exhaust is an active exhaust on this, and we'll hear that here in a minute. Taking a wider viewpoint, this car is wider than the standard Civic. Looking at the front fenders, they're wider, they're bulging, they're muscular, and of course there's air extractors at the back of those fenders that aid in a whole number of things, from aerodynamics to brake cooling. Coming to the back, we're wider here at the back too, and instead of tacking on a plastic shroud like the last generation, they've actually widened the doors and widened the rear quarters, so this does have a unique stamping at the back to give it that wider stance and fit the sheet metal over these larger tires and wheels. And what are those? Well, these are 19-inch wheels with 265/30 series ZR rubber Michelin Pilot. And inside those wheels you can see big, huge brakes with Brembo calipers. Now, one of the trademarks of this car is the dual axis front suspension, which helps with the torque steer, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we get on the drive. But that is one of the reasons why we have these wider tires and wheels with the offsets that you're looking at here. The front of the car, more unique Civic R stuff. Unique grille, unique lower front fascia, air splitter, red Honda badge, LED headlights of course, and on the hood is a functional vent. On the lower rocker you can see an additional splitter down there in gloss black that not only looks cool, but it actually helps aerodynamics in creating a nice smooth airflow and a directed airflow as we go back to that rear wheel opening. The interior of the Civic Type R is based on the same interior that I've already said a lot of good things about when I've tested other Civic models of this current generation. It's made of very high quality materials. The design is very contemporary. It's even maybe a price scale above. The switchgear, the metal grille in the dash, the vents, everything just really feels like it's something you'd find in a much more expensive car. In this one, we've got the red performance sport seats in a suede-like, if you read the window sticker, material, which means it's not real suede, it's synthetic suede, which is fine. It grips you very well. These sport seats hold you. They are manually adjustable. They don't have a lot of adjustment, but they've got what matters, and provided you don't weigh over about 200 pounds, they're going to fit most people. I find them absolutely great. I'm about 175 to 180 depending on the day, and I'm very comfortable here. This particular material, even though it is synthetic suede, I don't find that it makes me sweat. In red, I absolutely love these seats, and they go along with the red carpet in here quite well too. The rest of the interior, of course, is black, with the exception of the red logo on this steering wheel. No paddle shifters because we don't have an automatic. Sorry, it's a manual only. And ahead of me is an instrument cluster that's fully digital with the exception of the 2 outboard gauges. It is fully customizable. You can change it up. There's a number of different choices you can make in how it looks, but you can also hit the drive modes, and it'll change with the drive modes as well. And so particularly on the Plus R, it has a unique screen, and there are lights there, and there's a lot of indicators that can really start coming alive when you drive this thing hot. So nice instrument cluster. Coming over to the center stack, 9-inch screen over here for human user interface, a full bank of hard controls for the climate control, my preference. Below that, a cubby for a phone. I put mine down here. It has a wireless charger in that spot, very nice. Full ports for all your connectivity and charging. Now back here, this is the shifter, aluminum shifter. Now this is the real deal, real metal. And I'll tell you, when this is parked on a hot day, woo, that will burn your hand. And so this week, I've taken an old sock and I put a condom on that thing so that I don't get burned. I take it off and then I can drive it around, but when I park it in the sun, that sock goes back over the top of that thing. Next to it is the drive mode selector, and then of course a unfortunate electric parking brake. I miss the old e-brake handles, but behind that, cup holders down low, so you can have tall cups here. They're not going to be too much in your way. Storage in here, not really a lot. It's about the size of a single square tissue box, maybe. You might have to kind of jam it in there and crush it in a little bit to make it fit. Not the biggest storage area down there, but alas, we're not in an SUV. This is a compact car after all. The climate control performance is very good. I have had 100+ degree days all week here in Arizona, and this thing cools off the interior quite fast. It's on right now. So the air conditioning system works very well, if only it could cool off the shift knob. The back seat of the Civic Type R is very much like any Civic that you might sit in, with the exception of a few little details. It's a little bit nicer back here. I've got red seat belts, red stitching on these seats, though the upholstery on this seat doesn't quite match that at the front. They didn't go red all the way, but they do have red down on the carpet. And the backs of these seats, pretty cool to look at. It's got a nice Type R shield and panel on the back that it's functional if you actually had a bar and you're going to be feeding harness belts through here, and so it helps protect the seat, but it just looks cool if you're a passenger back here. What I will say is that there are a few things missing. First of all, this is not a 5-seater, this is a 4-seater. There is a cup holder in the middle, which is a big hint that, well, we don't have really any place for another person to sit in the middle. There's no seat belt for that person either. Unfortunately, there's not vents back here, something I expect in almost any car, particularly here in the summer when it's very hot. So it's missing some feature content back here, not only vents, charging ports, and the like. But in terms of comfort, not too bad. I am sitting down low because we are in a compact car, but the supportiveness and the side support of this seat and the general comfort of it isn't too bad. And I've got plenty of leg room too. These seats are set for my height, about 5'8" with my tennis shoes on. I've got about 2 to 3 inches of leg room in front of me. Now, these seats do fold down in a 60-40 split, gives you a little bit larger load floor back there, but the cargo area is pretty big for a 5-door hatch. And as you look around back there, there's a couple of cool details. The first one is the cargo cover. It's actually a roll shade that goes side to side, and this is something we first saw in the last generation Civic hatch. I like it. I think it's a cool way of doing it. You don't have that big horizontal bar that you have to lift out and take out when you don't want to use that. It really just gets out of the way quite easily. Other little details, because we have the Bose audio system that's got the big subwoofer there, and when you lift that floor up, you'll see that we don't have a spare tire here. High performance car, not a big surprise. Instead, you have the Fix-A-Flat emergency inflator kit. So I'm very impressed with this interior. It's got great materials, high quality switchgear, excellent fit and finish. Climate control works like awesome. I would like to have a different shift knob though, if I'm honest. I love the fact that it's metal. It's totally cool. It just burns your hand, and it is missing a few features here and there, namely the vents in the back. So it's going to squeak by and get 5 stars nonetheless, because these seats, woof. The infotainment system here is what the materials they give me bill as the largest screen yet in a Honda Civic, a 9-inch infotainment touchscreen and human user interface. It has Bose audio, which is the high-end audio system, And of course, it is fully featured. Not only does it have a backup camera, it does have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and of course you can plug in and connect to it as well. It's got a lot of feature content in that way. Navigating around on the menus, very easy, very simple, very straightforward. They didn't overcomplicate it, which I like that part. And it has a number of cool things. It has the Honda data logger, and you can go in there, and if you are out and about just having fun on a back road, or maybe you're on a track, if you're going all the way up to pro status, there's a number of different screens that you can monitor all of your performance metrics, look at the gauges, and you can even score yourself in a number of various ways, which I'm not going to get into, but those things are there. It has native nav. It has Sirius XM radio, which is a big thing to me, close to my heart. And of course, you can plug into this thing via Bluetooth and stream anything to it that you want. It does have hard controls for the volume and the tuning, as well as a couple of jump buttons here for a home menu. The visibility is still a little bit on the not perfect side because of the way it sits and sun can glare off of it. It still could use some improvement in the way of feature content. At this price tag, a lot of the competitors out there have a full 360-degree camera. This doesn't even have the lane watch that Honda's used to have. So a very good system, almost 5 stars, but not quite there. It gets 4 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, let's go for a drive. We're out here in the country all by ourselves on my favorite back road. So here we go. And this is a closed course, of course. Test Driven TV, we have our own section of abandoned highway that nobody else can drive on. Okay, that's embellishing it just a little bit. Woo-wee, listen to that. All right, so ride and handling, let's kind of cover that first. This has a unique chassis tune, of course, unique suspension. It's got a wider track than the standard Civic lineup. And I think the big difference to talk about is the multi-axis front strut suspension, which is designed to, well, more or less eliminate torque steer, which, you know, when they first told us all they were going to put 300 plus horsepower in a front-wheel drive car, most of us journalists kind of looked at each other and went, huh? That doesn't sound like a very good idea. Well, they've done it, and it works. And so under full power, there's a little bit of squirm, but it's not as bad as you think, especially off the line. The suspension has adaptive dampers, which are tied to the drive modes, and you've got several drive modes: Comfort, Sport, and then of course the top end plus R, which really dials everything up, as well as the noise from the engine. Now when it comes to noise, you're probably hearing quite a bit of it, not only from the engine, but from these big, huge tires. And right now we are on a pretty noisy piece of highway, but on my 70-mile-an-hour freeway test stretch that I do all my cars on, this is probably one of the noisiest cars I've ever tested. 65.9 decibels at 70 miles an hour. That's a lot. Most cars are in the 61 to 63 range, and below that with luxury cars. This one likely maybe less, I don't know, maybe less sound deadening, noisy tires. It's pretty noisy out on the road. But noise, no big deal. This is a high performance car, not a freaking Buick, right? So the suspension right now, I've got it set on the R plus drive mode, and it is rock hard. You dial it back and go just with the Sport. It's a little bit lighter, but still pretty stiff. And if you dial it down to Comfort, it becomes actually a little bit more livable every day. I had one of my viewers ask on our preview video, compared to the Civic Si, what's this like to live with? And so what I would tell you is that it's pretty much the same as the Civic Si. Now these seats are a little bit more grab a hold of you, so if you like that, great. If you don't, the Civic Si is going to have a little bit less aggressive seat, but because this does have the adjustable suspension, this isn't going to beat you to death every day like some other high performance cars that come one way no matter what. But the best part about this car is because of the grip of these tires and wheels, woo, you can throw this thing into a corner and never even like worry about it. This thing has got grip, and it wants it. It wants it hard. It wants it really hard, if you know what I'm saying. Woof. I could do this all day, man. Woo. And this rev matching, really. So bottom line, this chassis is, that was a cattle guard. I don't know how much better they could make it, right? A lot of people say, why doesn't it have all-wheel drive? But I'm not complaining here. Front-wheel drive makes it a little bit raw, a little bit fun, and well, it makes me smile. This chassis gets 5 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, now for the big conversation about what's under the hood, because that's what's most important, right? So under the hood is the latest generation of the K20 C1 turbocharged 2-liter engine and 6-speed manual transmission, 315 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque. Now, we're out in the middle of nowhere, and my question I always like to ask is, how does it go? So I'm going to try a launch here, which I haven't done yet a single time in this car. So we're going to see how bad I can botch it, or how good I can do. Are we ready? All right, and go. Little bit of wheel hop. I probably could have gotten a little bit higher on the RPM to drop the clutch, hit the rev limiter there, and I got way past 60 on that. So we don't have a 0 to 60, but you can probably get that from some of the other channels out there. It's fast, and it's got a wonderful rev matching algorithm. Torque steer. It's got torque steer. What are you going to do? It's minimal, but it's still there. It's a lot of torque for front-wheel drive. You can really feel it, particularly at speed. Not so much at slow speeds, but when you're really going down the highway at speed is mostly where you feel that. So this is an engine that sounds great. Active exhaust. It opens up those flappers when you really get your foot in it, especially when you dial up the sport mode. Now the fuel efficiency, 22 city, 28 highway, and 24 MPG combined in my week with it. I got about 22, which really isn't bad considering I've been driving this thing like a bat out of hell without a condom on the shifter on most days. So very impressed with this drivetrain. The rev matching just really, even though some people think it's a gimmick, and even I do on some days, it makes it easier to drive. And my husband, he doesn't drive a stick very often, and so took him out to practice driving, teach him how to drive a stick shift. And this is easy enough to drive that even somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience driving a stick shift can do it. The clutch is not heavy, it's not scary, it's not intimidating. It's a very soft, easy clutch for something with this much power. This shifter with the shift gate that it's got works absolutely precise and great. It doesn't hang up. So if you're a driver who just likes to be fed by your car and impressed and rewarded for driving it hard and raw, this works. So not only does it have the power, it's got refinement, it's got the sound experience, but it's actually somewhat efficient given the horsepower that it's got. So this powertrain gets 5 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, as you can see, there are tire marks and donuts all over the place here. I didn't do it, not with this car, for sure. So here's the deal. This is a car that impressed me greatly. It was one of the most fun test drive weeks I've had in a long time, because this is a car that feeds your soul. It's got the manual transmission, it's got the high revving engine, it's got the suspension, the brakes, the seats, the interior, the styling. Everything about this car feeds my soul as a car enthusiast. And it helps, overlook some of those things like that shift knob that'll fry your hand. Ow. Okay. So like, you just get a sock and that takes care of it for the most part. But here's the thing, in a world where we have 400, 500, and 600 horsepower electric cars that'll snap your neck clean off, suck your eyeballs back into the sockets, even though this isn't nearly quite as fast as those, it's a much better car for the driving enthusiast. And that's because it's got all of those other things. The manual, the rowing through the gears, the involvement, getting you into the process of driving and just laying your foot down and having a damn good time. And so you really can't do that with a lot of the electric cars. You can go from 0 to the next stoplight really fast, but try taking one of those things out on a windy mountain road and spending a day. Not gonna happen. Just doesn't work like that. This, you can do that all day, come home with permagrin like mushrooms will give you, only without the drugs. I mean, that's really where it's at. Now, competition. My closest competitors that I can think of in my head that really come up are the Hyundai Elantra N, a little bit less money, a little bit downscale in terms of quality, fit, finish, and of course the horsepower is a little bit less. It does come with a manual transmission. The next is the Volkswagen Golf R, about the same power, about the same price, but it comes with all-wheel drive. And here's the difference between the Golf R and this, in my opinion. This car is a little bit more raw. Golf R, a little bit more refined. And performance, pretty darn close. But to put it a little bit more crassly, this is raw sex. The Golf R is safe sex. So think about it in those terms, and you can kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about. This is a little bit more daring, a little bit more edgy, and a little bit more, well, I don't know, maybe bad boy, himbo. H for himbo. When we start talking about value and the things that I look at that figure that out, $44,385, you know, the quality on this car is exceptional. And that necessarily cannot be said for all of the import compact cars out there. This has refinement levels that are very high. It's got performance levels that are very high. The warranty, not the longest in the business. And, you know, the appeal, very good. So I put value here at 4 out of 5 stars. When you put that in with everything we've already talked about, we're 4.5 stars for the review. Exceptional, exceptional. And the other thing is, and this is the big one, it goes on my buy it list for 2023. Yeah. So just like the previous generation Honda Civic Type R and many other Honda Civics that I've tested, it makes the buy it list, and it's because it's good. It's put together well. It makes you smile. And I don't think anyone's going to question the dollar figure for this thing, if I'm honest. That's really where it's at. So I wouldn't. If I were buying a car in this class, this is it. This is the one I would choose. And I'm a Volkswagen guy. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Not mushrooms though. Okay? Bad, bad. Anyway, so there you go, my review for the Honda Civic Type R. And if you like what we do, subscribe to our YouTube channel right down there and see more of it. But if you're not ready to commit just yet, see our latest video right there and then decide. Either way, stay tuned.